Tap, tap, hello, there we go. Hey everybody, so who here has either heard of or experienced a rental scam on Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace? Raise your hand, right? Pretty big problem in our industry, right? So I'm Richard Gibbens, I'm the Executive Director of Southwest MLS, and joining me on stage here after they get mic'd up is Tyler Decker, the Director of Product Management from FBS, and Shawn Keller, the Vice President of Technology from Rental Beast. And we're gonna present the business use case of what we did to help solve that problem. Let's see if this is gonna work for me now. Come on. There it goes. All right, so the way this is gonna work is I'm gonna start off with some project background and some business objectives and results, and then Tyler and Shawn are gonna take over, and they're gonna talk about using Web API and Webhooks, how we achieved real-time integration with what we're doing here, and then we're gonna wrap up with some next steps and why it matters. So just a little bit of background, Southwest MLS uses FlexMLS as our core technology. In July, we introduced Rental Beast as the single ad edit for our system, and we utilize dual search through both Flex and Rental Beast. So that way people that are used to using FlexMLS search can continue to do that, and FlexMLS is also continuing to handle our syndication as well. So we're gonna talk a little bit about that, and then later on we're gonna have some stats for you on these key outcomes down on the bottom as well. So we started with a simple question. How do we solve the problem of consumers getting scammed on these rental websites? And if you stop and think about it for a second, what do consumers want? They want to go to one place where they can see as wide of an option of inventory as possible. And so they end up going to Craigslist because MLSs have failed to create the central source of truth for rentals. So the other part of it is that MLSs are, in general, we're really good at residential resale data, right? Our members call themselves real estate experts. But if they don't have all the data, if they only have resale data, they're only residential resale experts. So we want to provide them that extra data so that they can become a real estate expert in anything that puts a roof over a head. So we're doing this with rentals now, and we're looking at new construction next. It's where we're going to expand the amount of data that's available to our members. Another part of it is that real estate agents can utilize rental data in down markets. So right now, the example I use is, if their hose is this big, right now there's a little trickle running at it because somebody has turned the faucet off. Well, over time, they can utilize rental leads and grow that hose even larger. So when the faucet gets turned back on, now all of a sudden they're getting a much larger number of people that they can help find a home. So there's a lot, that's the benefits behind it. And then another piece of it is subscriber retention. As MLSs, we're all looking at this future of we're worried about losing subscribers. Well, every other subscriber-based business model on planet Earth, if you go into a down market, starts trying to find ways to get new subscribers, right? It's not a novel concept. So there was a lot of different goals that would help there for our business objectives that happened. And this isn't just Barnum humbug. If you look at the MLS, on average, we usually have about 10% of the available rental inventory, which means that we're ignoring 30% of the roofs over people's heads. So there's a real need in the market for the MLS to enter and solve that problem. So how do we do that? We started by looking at our strengths and weaknesses. So one of our strengths, we're a 4,500 member organization. We're a good test bed for innovation. Another strength of ours is relationship building. I've had a long relationship with FBS, and one of the reasons that relationship works so well is I don't dictate solutions to them. I go to Flex, I bring them my vision of what we're looking for, what we want to accomplish, and we have conversations. We talk about what are they concerned about, what are their timelines, what Southwest MLS do different, what processes can we change to help them along with this and help with the mapping and things like that. So we brought that same level of relationship building to Rental Beast as well, brought them into the conversation, helped build this relationship, and ended up paying a lot of dividends. I want to stop for a second just to talk real briefly about change management. I have Who Moved My Cheese up here, because that's a book that I hope just about everybody in this room has read. Extremely popular business book, talks about change management and talks about how to help that. And one of the things that I did is I started talking to my property managers before we even signed the contract for Rental Beast. I talked to them, I listened to them about how does your business work? What do you need from the MLS? What can we do better for you that we're not doing right now? And then you shut up and listen. You get that feedback and you listen to them. And what happens when you go through that process is you end up picking up a couple champions along the way. And then those people can help take that MLS value proposition and pass it on for you so you're not having to do all the legwork. Bottom line with change management, People will be heard. The only question is, are you listening to them before the launch or after the launch? So let's go into some results so far. Before our launch with Rental Beast, we averaged about 100 rentals a month at any given time. Now my members have access to 2,200. Looking at rented listings for pulling CMAs or market statistics, previous, over a 3-year period, we had 1,800. Now it's over 12,000. So it's a massive increase in the amount of data available to my members thanks to what Rental Beast brings in. I forgot to mention earlier, because they bring in the data from your products like AppFolio or Buildium. And actually, I got to back up a second, because I realized I missed some steps here. So weaknesses. Our property type, like a lot of MLSs, was somebody copy and pasted residential, changed it to residential lease, and stuck it out there. Property managers didn't need a lot of the fields, and we're missing a lot of the fields they did need. And we could sit there and, okay, let's do a committee and rebuild the process and make all the fields match for them. But the weakness we couldn't overcome was dual entry. Property managers enter every single one of their listings into systems like AppFolio, Buildium, Yardi, et cetera, because they use those systems to manage their leases, their applications, their rent payments. But then we're also expecting them to enter into the MLS as well, which creates a dual entry requirement that quite frankly wasn't happening. So Rental Beast is what, because they capture that data, that's what caught our attention. It's like, hey, wait a second. How can we get that data and bring that to our membership? And then to solve the problem of the consumer issue, Rental Beast also provides a white label website that puts all this data from both the members and the non-members in a single place so that consumers have that central source of truth to go to. So we started working through it. We had significant mapping challenges, right? So mapping is everybody's favorite pain point in this room, right? We had Flex, we had RESO standards, we had Rental Beast. From the get-go, we looked at Rental Beast as the expert because they've already built the integrations with these property management softwares. So we used them, we leaned on their expertise on most of the time. There was a few times where we're like, okay, guys, RESO standards probably makes a little more sense here. We need to clean that up. But importantly, the working with RESO part of this is that we identified weaknesses in the with rentals in the data dictionary, things like move-in costs or pets. So now we have that rental subgroup chaired by Josh Taylor, also of Rental Beast. I saw him back there. And so we're working through those things and working with rentals on that. So back over to the results now. Sorry, I had to skip back on that. Some other results to point out. In the last 3 months, we've actually up to 16 property managers have joined the MLS. Doesn't sound like a big number, but keep in mind, we're kind of a soft launch period. We're not aggressively marketing to non-members yet. This is all word of mouth. Also keep in mind, those 16 property managers probably brought somewhere around, 8,000 doors with them. So as those people go in and claim more listings over time, which we're working on making more efficient so they can do that, the non-member listings number is going to go down and the member listing number is going to go up. And then finally, median rent price. We thought our median rent price was about $2,000. But if you have an affordable rental, you don't have to market it. You put it in a window and it's gone in 24 hours, right? So because we're missing that big lower end, our median rent price in our area is actually about $1,400. So it really highlights the issue of that missing data. So now I'm going to hand it over to Tyler and Shawn, and they're going to work through some of the technical stuff with you guys.
Cool. Thanks, Richard. Yeah, so what Richard started here, I think, is awesome, and it's a chance for me to put on my product hat, which is Richard did not dictate solutions to us. We really tried to live in the problem space, and so what we were kind of, talking about is this is the outcome I want, and this is the timeline that we're under because there is a contract. What we're actually talking about at the end of the day here is, how can we get non-FlexMLS data into FlexMLS to support search? We do that a million different ways today. I think every RESO conference for the last 5 years has talked about data shares. In some ways, this is really similar. But again, with Richard just talking about that outcome, and ideally letting really smart people in the room, which is not me. This is like the Troy Davison RESO god that he is. Let really smart people come up with a solution. I think the bottom kind of in parentheses is the nuts and bolts here. Make sure Rental Beast and FlexMLS systems work together seamlessly. And then my favorite slide, obviously the matrix, it was decision time. RETS, XML, kind of the old tried and true way. We know it works, it updates every 5 minutes, 15 minutes, once a day. Like, people get to decide what that frequency is. And that was actually what was our first plan, because we did have a timeline. We knew that the XML sync was something that was out there we could reuse today. And so between RentalBeast and FlexMLS, our first plan was just to reuse what was out there. And we decided to kind of take about a 2-week break and kind of let the ideas soak, and we regrouped. And I think both collectively, and this is funny, Richard was about 5 minutes late to this call. And so we're starting to talk about it, and Shawn came to the table and he's like, hey guys, I'm thinking about webhooks here. And Troy kind of said the same thing. And then Richard hops on the call and he said, wait, are we talking about webhooks? Because we thought we were gonna go the old XML way. The other thing, and we'll get to this as kind of a lessons learned and next steps, but if you remember this scene from The Matrix, the major takeaway here is you cannot go back. Once we have done this implementation, and we'll talk about what and why, we will not be going back. So,
thanks, Tyler. So if any of you have been to last couple of RESO conferences, there was some sessions around adoption of webhooks, why you should do it. But we think it makes sense just to spend a minute to go, why webhooks, right? If we think about data integration, and this is across all industries, it really kind of started out with batch processing, that overnight you get the data once kind of thing. And then our users said, we want it twice a day, and then 3 times a day, and then once every 3 hours. The fact of the matter is that the new norm is near time to real-time processing. So what happens in the world of webhooks? Well, we turn the model upside down. Instead of the consumer starting the conversation, the producer of the data starts the conversation. So instead of it being a consumer saying, you got data for me? You got an update for me now? How about now? The producer's like, chill, baby. I'm going to give you the data when it's ready for you. And then they come pull it. So how's the integration work between FlexMLS and RentalBeast on behalf of Southwest MLS? It's actually very straightforward. Starts with the add edit on the RentalBeast side. When there is a change to a listing, notification gets sent over to Flex with a unique identifier of that listing and also a security token, which then the Flex platform will basically use to come back and grab that listing of data once again with a security token. In the case of a net new listing being created in RentalBeast, there is an additional layer that happens here, which is after that listing is updated on the FlexMLS side, they of course create an MLS ID and then pass that back to RentalBeast so that RentalBeast has it. The next 2 slides, we're going to get a little technical. I promise to return you from the dark side quickly, but for those of you that appreciate the tech side, I wanted to go a little deeper. This slide basically represents the last slide, but on the technical side. So in essence, what's happening here is, as I said, it starts with add edit in RentalBeast. There's a database trigger that says, oh, there's been a change in the listing. I'm going to pass this off to notification service, which is in essence a microservice, which is then going to prepare the push notification to be sent over to the Flex side. And of course, they have a queue that they're putting all that into in order to be able to process those requests. And then their ETL platform is coming back to do the get request or put in API speak. API gateway itself is also a very important part of this because it's basically handling that request response between the 2 parties, the ingress and egress of data. And on top of that, with API gateway, you can add additional levels of security, traffic throttling, caching, logging, etc. Talk nerdy to me. I think that was a song from the 80s. Poison, maybe? Anyway, so when we went down this path, we had this ability to, hey, we're starting net new. So let's use best of breed technologies as well as adopting industry standards so that this can be built for the future. Not going to go through every one of them, but there's a couple I definitely want to touch on. So halfway down the screen on the left side, you'll see what's called JWT. JSON Web Token is what that stands for. What that is message level security that allows the consumer and producer to have a high level of guarantee that that message has not changed, the payload hasn't changed during transmission. It's what's called man-in-the-middle attack. And the beauty of a JWT is the fact that it can also support encryption as well as digital signatures, which takes us to the RSA piece, which is basically a tried and true security model for signing data. And we chose that because it is the private public key algorithm model, which makes it very, very secure for that transmission between. So if you saw on the previous slides where I was showing, hey, they validate the data, and they validate that data, it's because that transmission going back and forth between RentalBeast and FlexMLS is always has security in mind at that message level. Real-time logging. Why does that matter, right? And by real-time logging, what I'm saying is at the point in time the push notification leaves RentalBeast to the point where FBS comes back and asks for the data and everything in between, it is logged. The payload is logged, the headers are logged, the authorization is logged. Why is that important? Testing, troubleshooting, performance and latency testing, so we make sure it stays speedy. Oh, but there's one more thing. Security. So OWASP, which is the Open Web Application Security Project, it's a mouthful. Basically, they publish every few years the top 10 security vulnerabilities across all industries in the world. One of the biggest one is insufficient logging, right? Something you have to really think about. There were some presentations yesterday about security, but the point that I'm trying to make on that is if you don't have the right amount of logging, when you get into after an attack has occurred and you want to do data forensics, you need that data. You also should have it on data prevention side as well. So RESO Data Dictionary. As Richard mentioned earlier, there is a subgroup of rentals, and we start with that. That data as being our default of transmission of data that's going to go back and forth between RentalBeast and FBS. However, Southwest MLS might say, we want some additional fields. Triangle MLS will say, we want some additional fields, and we're able to sprinkle that in with configuration so that whenever FBS is getting the message from us, they will know what that payload looks like and how to, and who it's for, I should say as well. RESO data transport. So we had this in mind as well, the standards that are out there for data transport when we built this as well. And we also have some actually new requests for us to enhance this API layer that will push us more in that direction. As an example, RSC has asked that we start to support things such as select and filter or pagination of things like top and skip. And that will be coming, and that will, in essence, push us in the direction of OData standards, RESO standards, RCP28, all that. Like I said, the idea behind this was really kind of built for the future. One last thing, I'm going to go back to security. Seems to be the topic of the day, or at least something I always have in mind. I already talked about message level security. There's not a silver bullet for security. You have to look at it across layers. So what we've done is the API gateway that I talked about yesterday, we also have added to that a rule set with a web application firewall. There was a slide yesterday that talked about, that showed the Gartner quadrant with all of the security companies out there. Beautiful thing about being in the cloud is you can actually leverage their knowledge because you can buy these rule sets from CloudStrike, from Fortinet, others, and be able to use that to help prevent attacks at the API layer. And then finally, perimeter level, meaning IP whitelisting. In other words, you're not getting in unless you're these guys or anyone else that we would let in. You get stopped at the door. Anyway, back from the dark side.
Yeah. Yeah, so real quick, you know, this is not the tech, but it is process. I mentioned it earlier. I can't emphasize it enough. Live in the problem space. Get people together. Let the smart people, you know, come up with the right solutions. The close collaboration, you know, going up to launch, especially on the day of launch. Shawn was talking about the real-time logging, where when we started doing some of the testing, I don't know if we had like real good expectations about what to expect. we started, kind of testing back and forth, and we're sitting on a call, and, I can't remember who said it, was like, guys, we're seeing like sub 2-second updates hitting the separate systems. And maybe that was the time where we were like, we might be onto something, but really that close collaboration, I think is a super important thing.
Yeah, and one of the stories there was, during the launch day that Rental sent down one of their trainers, and his name's PJ, and, just issues always happen at launch, right? And it's nice to have someone on site to help work through those issues. He would be sitting behind me in my office, and he'd make a change in Rental, and I would be sitting on quick search, just ready to go as fast as I could. I couldn't beat the update. So we proved less than 3 seconds on that. And then, did you guys want to talk about the tell versus poll, or? I'll take that. Yeah. It's exactly what Shawn was talking about earlier of just, lower server load. One of the things I'm going to be interested to see as we go this over time is what kind of savings is there in this, right? I can see if every single person that's currently hitting both of these guys' servers all changed to webhooks, imagine the type of savings that would have, right? So we actually have a video for you where it goes through and it shows you in about a minute in the video, but it really is less than 3 seconds.
This is a rental listing that has been input via RentalBeast Ad Edit and is in our system as a draft. I'm going to make this listing active, and then I'll go to Flex to show you that it has successfully been loaded there. Next, I'll show you this listing in RentalBeast search with an MLS ID. Before we start, please note that the address of this listing is 742 Evergreen Terrace. Also, I included a highly recognizable image to make it easy to identify the listing. All right, let's get started here. So first, I'm going to go over to the listing. I'm going to click Publish. Then I'm going to click OK. And then I'm going to navigate over to Flex, and I'm going to click Quick Search. And I'm going to input a minimum rent to make the listing easy to find as we're searching for it. And we're searching now. And we see that the listing is in Flex with an MLS ID. I'm going to run my mouse below it real quick. And then we're going to navigate back to the listing, refresh the page, and I'm going to show you the MLS ID here. All right, that's it.
So yeah, for the non-technical people in the room, the way the webhooks works is RentalBeast says, hey, listing's ready. Flex says, okay, cool, I grabbed the listing. It assigns an MLS ID. It says, hey, MLS ID is ready. RentalBeast says, okay, cool, grab that. Now you have a common key. Once you have a common key together, real-time data sync is significantly easier, right? So next up is just talking about next and why it matters. So Tyler, you want to take that part?
Yeah, I mean, I said earlier, there's no going back. The Mandalorian quote, this is the way. So what's next? Like Richard said, this was a really good proof of concept, almost an experiment that was a smashing success. We've got a couple MLSs kind of in the pipeline with this Triangle. So what you'll see with both Triangle and ARMLS, we're increasing inventory and actually making the whole the sync process more complex. So right now with Southwest MLS, we have a two-way sync. When we get all the way to ARMLS, they actually have kind of forked their rental property type between traditional long-term rentals and short-term rentals. And so what's going to be happening there is we're going to have two-way syncs going back and forth so that both RentalBeast and FlexMLS are up to date to support search with both of those.
Yeah, and then the other part about this, like I talk a lot about with my board about we like paving the roads for others to drive down later. And one of the things I've talked about with RentalBeast on this is because this is now faster and more predictable, they can now actually serve smaller MLSs than they were able to before and still get enough ROI to make a buck, right? So these are the kind of changes that make data more accessible and make these products more accessible to more people. So that's one of the things that we're really proud of about this. And then, did you have anything on that slide, Shawn? Or?
I think this is it.
Yeah, so I guess that's all. We'll hang out for a little while if you guys have any questions, but I think Sam's coming up to send you guys to break. Thank you all.
Thanks.